Okie dokie. So, that's handled. Hello, everyone. This is Dookie here, joined by Dissinger.
Hello.
Okay, so we're here basically for our podcast talking about the new FFTCG spoilers for the set Dawn of Heroes coming out next month, actually. Next month on the 22nd, so less than a month away.
Yeah.
So, from some of the spoilers that are there, I don't think we can put all of them on the screen here, so which ones would you like to talk about first there, Dissinger?
Well, I was just thinking we could start from the very beginning because we've got a lot of spoilers to cover. Like I said, we have about 30 some odd cards to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we could start with the oldest ones to remind people of what spoilers have already been out and move from there.
Yeah, so maybe we can start with should we start with the early spoilers of like Xenos and Estinian?
Yeah, we can talk about Xenos, I think, because Estinian does show up later in the spread, but Xenos hasn't.
Well, Estinian's like the box topper or the special pull thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
should have been in here, but anyway. Yeah, so we could talk about at least Xenos.
Yep.
I'll have to go into a different tab on my end so I can see it. Oh boy, it's a long way down. Oh boy. Okay, so I'll have to.
There he is. Okay.
Oh, you got it?
He's back on January 18th, 2023 for Estinian. And I'm assuming, yep, there's Xenos. That was on December 21st.
Yep, just have to get up there. Oh boy, this
Half a year ago.
So all the way up during like when the current sets from Nightmare Spoilers was going on. Oh boy.
Yeah. Just try and remember what we were talking about way back when, and we were like, oh, this card's going to matter so much, and then it ended up not mattering at all. Like the Zidane.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah, Zidane's been popular, but I don't think Zidane's had quite the same impact as like the Warrior of Light. He had a much larger impact than we ever could have guessed.
Yeah. Okay, so I found the post. Oh dear God. Okay, that's a long way up. Like December 21st, 2022. Oh geez. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll start with Xenos.
Yep.
So hard.
First off, he's the box topper. Every box you purchase, you get the full art foil of him, and he looks gorgeous.
Yeah, sadly they changed the image a little bit. They zoomed in a little bit on his image. I'm like, well, that sucks a bit, but eh. But still, you get the full art foil of the majesty of the pretty boy villain Xenos.
I don't know. Is he really a villain? He kind of got what he wanted and then mellowed out.
Yeah, I mean, without going into spoilers, if you haven't done like Stormblood, Shadowbringer, and Endwalker, I mean, at this point now you will have done Shadowbringers, or if you haven't, it's already going to be spoiled anyway. So, let's just say that he is obsessed with the Warrior of Light, and doesn't care about anyone else except the Warrior of Light. And if it's to achieve his own goal to have the Warrior of Light be who he thinks the Warrior of Light should truly be at your core, he'll achieve that at any means necessary. He is like he's basically like the stalker that's actually useful in more than one occasion, but you're like, well, I have to deal with the stalker now.
Yeah.
Everything.
Dealing with him never feels good. He's technically not a bad guy, but he's definitely a guy that's on everybody's watch list for a reason.
Yeah. So, sorry, going a little bit into slight lore. If you played Shadowbringer, you know Emmett Saul is basically your opposite in terms of how you want to get stuff done. You're doing the exact same thing, just completely opposite sides of the coin.
Well, yeah, and Emmett had a good reason to be the opposite side of the coin.
Yeah.
Zeno, from what I remember, yeah.
Zeno is based off Stormblood, Shadowbringer, and all that. He is basically the embodiment of a literal adventurer. Like, always striving to get stronger, always up to the new challenge, always ready to push his body to the absolute limit, and blah, 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 blah. He has the embodiment of an adventurer at its basis core.
Okay.
So he's another part of what... Like, he's another polar opposite of you. Which is astounding writing for character development. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
Yeah, so... Sorry, slight bit of lore. Back to the card. So he's a 4-cost 9K legendary, but box opera, as Disinter said.
And you got to remember that as a dark or a light card, they kind of get to break the rules when it comes to the normal cost. Like, normally a 4-drop would be 8K. He gets to break the rules just because he's dark.
Yep, and he's Job Reaper, which I'm... Actually, I don't know if we have the spoiler for that, but there is a Reaper card in the new set, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
So Xenos, the forward Reaper, 14, 9K, blah, blah, blah. Xeno, if you cast Xeno, you can cast Xenos from the break zone. I'm trying to read this with the stamp of sample on here.
Yeah,
when
when
Xeno enters the field from the break zone, at the end of the turn, remove Xeno from the game. When Xeno enters the field, choose one for 3 costs or less, break it. When it's
put from the field into the break zone this turn, select one of the 2 following actions.
Okay, thank you.
Your opponent discards a card, or Xenos gains haste until the end of the turn.
So basically, it's a big buy that goes either discard or I'm coming in and breaking something.
I'm breaking your face, or I'm breaking your hand.
Yep, and I'm still going, and yeah, pretty much. He's actually there's some interesting ways to utilize him, honestly.
Yeah. My opinion is that he's gonna be kind of like Kadaj in that he's gonna be one of those cards you don't feel bad splashing in a deck as a one-of, because even if he gets pitched from your hand for something else, you can bring him out when it matters. So he's always going to be a threat. It's gonna make Edward and Misdragging hold their place as, cards that you're constantly considering in decks. Like, I don't think Misdragging will ever go away.
No, not really.
Especially when they print guys like this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was wrong about the Emperor, I will fully admit. When I saw the Emperor, I was like, oh, he warps for 2 generic. He's a card that you're going to see a lot of because everybody and their grandmother's going to splash him because he's always relevant and it's a 9K body. Yeah. And there were a couple of decks at Texas, at the Texas Materia Cup, that did splash him. But he's not as prolific as I thought he'd be.
Yeah. So there's that. So let's just go on to Estinian, which is actually you can pull a really pretty full art foil in a booster pack.
He's the signed full art.
Well, signed without the sign, but
yeah.
So he's lightning. Thank God we got that clarification.
Yep.
4 cost, 8K legendary. That's pretty good, and he has warp 1, so pay 1 lightning. He's out of the game for a turn. Depending on how you play, he's back in on that same turn, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
He has haste passively. When he enters the field due to warp, until the end of the turn, Estinian gains brave and can attack twice in the same turn. Really good. When Estinian attacks, until the end of the turn, he gains 10,000 power and first strike. And he's a job scion of the 7th Dawn.
Yep.
Oh boy!
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. Okay. His value is definitely in warping him and delaying him a turn. The problem with that is you are telegraphing what you're planning on doing the next turn. He shouts from the mountaintops, hey, I'm about to wreck you sideways.
Yep, now to be fair, in lore, that's kind of his gimmick after a while, so I don't blame the card for doing that.
Right. But he's definitely one of those plays that it's like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. It's kind of like Theodore.
Yeah.
Theodore does the same thing. Hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm about to make you discard 3 cards. You got 2 turns left. You got 1 turn left. I hope you have no hand, because here I come.
Pretty much. And the fact that if you have like it in the correct build of the deck, yeah, he's coming for like maybe 20k, maybe a little bit higher, twice with First Strike and Brave.
Yeah, 28k First Strike Brave, like 18k the first time he attacks, 28k the second time he attacks that turn.
Yep, and that's 20k, but you're not counting. There's a couple other cards that boost Silence of the Seventh Dawn.
Yeah, that's not counting things like Oracle of Light or
you can actually
Lease,
Fire Lease. What other ones? Crystal XR could be a thing.
The Earth Crystal Exarch?
Yeah.
Okay. Or Oracle of Light back up for 1k, but I think everybody would be running Light Oracle of Light.
So he just gets big and beefy.
Yeah, he becomes Chunky Boy.
He's also another husbando in 14 that people like.
Yeah. And let's face it, like, Estinian doesn't leave a lot of room for ambiguity. The dude straight up is a dragoon, which is basically Final Fantasy's version of a dragon knight. And if I remember correctly, he works with the dragons and slays the dragons when they step out of line. Like he's like their enforcer.
He works. So if you played, Heaven's Ward is part of the free trial. Man, the whole talk about it, but whatever. But he does gain power through the dragons. Obviously, Nidhogg and Reshvelgar are a thing.
Yep. Nidhogg and Reshvelgar are basically like the mom and dad. Welcome in, Cash. But yeah, the whole point is this dude's life,
welcome.
For a significant portion of his life, surrounded dragons. So if this dude couldn't punk a dragon, what's the point?
Pretty much. But he also gets a lot of other power ups and all that stuff, and went from hunting dragons to just using their abilities to just dominate. So
fair enough. I think we've all been there.
So yeah, and people are like, oh, he's going by Dragoon, but no, it's a little disappointing it's not Dragoon, but excuse me, but yeah, it's a little just.
I think the one that is a Dragoon is fine in Dragoons because he does pretty much the same thing this Estinian's designed to. He's designed to force your opponent out of the way. Like, anything you throw in his way is never going to even approach being enough to stop him. And the second he declares his attack, it's over. Like, even the new Warrior of Light would be hard-pressed to do any lasting damage to Estinian unless he was, like, throwing the 5Ks and using Rosa to stand. And at that point, what's to stop you from just nuking Rosa on reaction to, like...
Yeah, and heaven forbid if you have, like, the old Minwu backup, then it's, like, it's useless anyways.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
The 3-drop, yeah.
Yeah. Or cards like it, but yeah.
Minwu, Larsa...
Cecil.
There's a couple of them. Cecil.
Like, let's see. Down.
Okay, so now we're going down. So those were the 2 that were spoiled all the way back in December.
Before the set from Nightmares was released.
Yeah, that was before From Nightmares even released. We were like, oh, okay. Oh yeah, Vincent. Turns out that he's kind of like a skip a turn. Your opponent skips a turn card.
Yep.
Okay. Alright. There's Jack Garland. Okay, here we go. So now we start with Mont Blanc.
Trying to get down because my computer's being dumb.
Okay, fair enough.
Come on. Almost there. It's not that. That's not that. That's definitely not that. Oh, that's
You
from
could
set
almost-
21, actually, so we don't talk about that one.
Yeah, Jack Garland. Yeah.
He's from 21.
Yep. That's next set.
Yep.
We'll be doing this. We'll be doing this in a couple more months.
And I hope,
Alright.
hopefully, I can submit a thing, because you have to fill out a form if you want. But hopefully, I'm able to get a spoiler from that set. I really like Stranger of Paradise. Sorry, I had to nerd out there.
No, you're totally fine. Okay, so next card would be Mont Blanc.
Yep.
He's 2-drop fire, backup Moogle, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, not Advance 2, Advance.
Yeah.
Not 12, Advance. Okay. When Mont Blanc enters the field, choose a forward. Deal it 5,000 damage. If you control 5 or more fire characters, deal it 8,000 damage instead. So...
may I say that the fact that it says characters is very relevant in his text.
Yeah, it's very relevant in today's metas. In the old days, that would say 5 fire backups
or 5 fire forwards.
The fact that they're starting to embrace characters as a whole means that it's giving people excuses to include monsters on the table. You might see Lava Spider cropping up on decks now in order to buff your Mont Blanc count. Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What can I say? 8K is right now the benchmark of where you need to be. If you can't do at least 8,000 damage, it's not enough.
Or if you're not doing that type of damage, you better hope that you have something just to double it, or just kill something if it just takes a little bit of damage or something.
Yeah. At that point, it's a finishing blow like Brynhildr was for a while. But even Brynhildr's starting to drop out of decks because it's not enough. Like, my Opus 13 Bahamut's have never left my decks, but Brynhildr has gone to the wayside. So, like, it feels like 8K or bust a lot of times. So, he does have a relevant amount of damage. Like, the question is, can it kill a soiree member? If it can, it's relevant. If it can't, why bother? That's where I feel the benchmark is, because soiree is one of those decks that it's gonna be around. It's really hard to kill the deck.
Yup. Okay, so the next one from it is Chocobo. A common that can be a fuller and is a multi-color, is a multi-unit card, which is great.
Yep.
And is category special, which is perfect for title decks.
Unfortunately, I found out I was wrong. Special is not automatically included in all titles. There's a list of cards that you can take regardless of your title, but special is apparently not on the list. For some reason, special is not a generic one that everybody can take, which really cheeses me, because it would make sense to make special that category, because special tends to embody the concepts of Final Fantasy more than anything.
Yeah, well, as far as I knew, you can add special cards into your title deck to fill in the gaps.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, so it's a 2-drop wind, forward, standard unit, generic, so multi-unit. When Chocobo enters the field, choose one forward other than Job Chocobo or card name Chocobo you control. As long as it's on the field, Chocobo gains 4,000 power. So it's a 2-drop 9K body, as long as he has a buddy to ride it.
Yep, and actually, now I think about it, that's Chocobo's Dungeons art, like a similar Chocobo Dungeon art. Ooh, I like that art.
Yeah.
But, that's really good. So essentially, if you have a big, beefy boss monster, target that with Chocobo. It's like, Ooga Booga Booga, I'm a 9K. If you have the right cards, like Ooga Booga Booga, I'm 11K Chocobo.
Like, imagine if you drop this Chocobo next to Yuffie or Rosa or any number of other characters that protect themselves from being targeted and get big and beefy.
Mm-hmm. You put the old backup arc on the field that boosts job standard units attack power by 1,000.
Yep. Or you can run, or you could say Warrior of Light.
Oh yeah, the older one too, yeah. So there's lots of utility, especially in a Chocobo deck, like dear god.
Yeah. Like, the Chocobo deck just got one of its friends. You could name Azana. Yeah, Azana could easily go, but the point is it gives you a 9k body for now that they have to deal with, and if they burn the Azana to make him smaller, that means that they're kind of burning their burn on the wrong things. You know?
Yeah. Still, that Chocobo is really good.
Yeah. it's a fun little deflection.
Yeah, it just gives you a body to go, I'm coming in. It's like, I want to deal with the boss monster. I have to deal with the body.
Yeah. While I'm figuring out how to... Oh, God. Neo X Death riding a Chocobo.
Ned's just on top of the Chocobo like, aha!
There we go.
So going on to the card Mira, which I'm happy about this because I have a title Crystal Chronicle deck and I want to get this full art so I can bling it out even more.
Okay, so Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles is notorious for using a bicycle deck as its theme for a number of cards. In 13, they had a number of characters that came out as full arts that were basically poker cards. And it looks like they're doing it again this set. Because they've added Mira. Go for it.
Yup. So forward 5k, 2 cost lightning. I'm surprised it was lightning of all colors.
Yeah.
Dark Lord. When opponents forwards enters the field, you may pay 1 and discard a monster. When you do so, break that forward. What? So yeah. you're paying 3 to go pop.
Yep. As soon as they play the character, pop, you're dead. Pop, you're dead. Pop, you're dead.
So then the second text is put 1 monster into the break zone. Play Mira onto the field dull. You can only use this ability during your turn if Mira's in the break zone. Oh, okay.
So she recurs herself.
And there's lots of things to recur monsters back to hand her on field, so it's like, okay.
The problem with that is most of the stuff that recurs monsters is in Earth. So now you're looking at a Lightning Earth deck.
Which honestly has been going around in more one way or another, so it's like, it's not really that uncommon now.
Yeah. I like her. I like that she's in a different color now. So at least a new color has a chance to do something. But I do have to agree with the assessment that Square or Hobby Japan and Square seem really afraid of embracing the idea of a monster deck.
Because that's, if I'm not mistaken, in Magic, the artifact deck or artifact commander or otherwise decks are kind of nutty.
And that's not, like, the closest equivalent to monsters that I have seen in Magic are actually enchantments.
Yeah, no, that's true. Artifacts and enchantments are basically what monsters are anyway, so that makes sense.
A lot of people say that the backups of Final Fantasy are more like mono rocks, so they're like the artifacts of Magic. Yeah. While monsters tend to fill the role of enchantments, because some of the enchantments can become creatures. The god enchantments.
I just noticed. If you're still here, thanks, Cash, for the follow, by the way. Sorry, I did say that.
Yeah.
So I'd say that, that's pretty well similar. So, and either, I don't know if Standard's still somehow surviving, but in Modern and Commander, like enchantment decks, especially artifact decks, depending on what you build, is nuts.
Yeah. They just seem to refuse to embrace monsters enough to make them an actual deck archetype, and I think part of that has to do with the fact that they refuse to print enough monster hate to allow people to fight back against it. And the problem with that is most of your monster hate has to has to effectively be dual purpose. Otherwise, it feels like a waste in a deck.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a shame, but though with this Mira, there could be older monsters that could be relevant, actually.
Welcome in, E-Day69. I did, but the deck doesn't focus on monsters. It focuses on discard and lockdown and control. There's a difference. There's a big difference between a deck that is nothing but monsters, hides all of its forwards as monsters, and marches across the field to you, and a deck that's controlling you through monsters. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So from there, I mean, personally, I like to talk about Chris Chronicles all day, but kind of have a bit of a trying to get all the cards that we can because there's a lot.
Yeah,
so
we've got like 33 cards to get through.
So now, one of my personal favorite characters from 14, and honestly, comparatively to the other ones, I think best boy, but whatever, is Graha Tia. 3 cost lightning, 7k. He's a heroic, a job signing of the 7th Dawn. If you control job steering unit, category 14, so category 14's job steering unit, Graha Tia gains 3,000 power. So he's at 10k. That's pretty good.
Keep in mind that can be a backup or a monster or a forward. It can be any type of standard unit category 14 character.
And then when Graha Tia enters the field, it may pay X. When you do so, search for 1 job sign on the 7th Dawn forward of a cost X and play onto the field.
Now, this is different. This is different than Snow. Because Snow, when he searches for lightning, you pay X and then you find a lightning of cost X or less and throw it onto the field. You have to pay the exact cost.
Yeah.
It's not cost X or less, it's cost X. But it's still really good.
Yeah, because you can just cheat out a bunch of stuff that goes, okay, I got this one out. Okay, this one enters the field, get this one out. Okay, if you get this one out, pay an extra whatever, get another thing out. It just craps a whole bunch of stuff, and quite honestly, that's Graha Tia in a nutshell.
Yeah, Graha Tia is good because Graha Tia can fetch you the new LSA, who can fetch you another Scion from the discard pile. Or Graha Tia can fetch you Pulse of Life Y'shtola, which then will do a count of how many Scion forwards you have and give somebody minus 3k for each one. So potentially killing somebody entering play. And then can Pulse and Graha Tia as a Scion so he doesn't care.
Pretty much.
Also allowing you to dole Graha Tia to make her or somebody else gain first strike and haste for the turn. Like, there's a lot of fun plays you can do with Graha Tia. I think we're almost there. We need a backline that supports all these Scions now. We have Water Lightning Scions, and I think it's almost in the best place it can be. But it needs a backline now to work.
Yeah, a backline that is actually
something more than Louis Soir.
Louis Soir, Alphinaud, and Alize, really.
Well, no, because you're going to want to keep Alphinaud and Alize as forwards, wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's more than just those, I mean.
Yeah. So therein lies the problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, then again, if you're using him, you can do the job standard unit, so it's not too big of a loss.
Right. It's just right now it feels like unless your backups are pulling more backups or grabbing you that forward to start the chain on your front line, it almost feels too slow, right?
Yeah. Okay, now to the big beefy Dark Knight and Paladin Cecil. So Cecil, 5 cost 9k. Can be a full art foil. Legendary. You may pay Water and Earth instead of paying the CP cost to cast Cecil. When you do so, when he enters the field, Cecil deals you 1 point of damage. Ooh.
Now, That's a casting cost. That is a cost to cast him. That means that counts for anything that requires you to cast for the turn. Like, for instance, the wind stuff. That's kind of important because for instance, Sid Final Fantasy Brave Exvius will only do him like 2k damage instead of 9k damage.
Yeah. So, yeah. And plus there's also other cards that benefit off being hurt. So...
Yep.
It's sorry?
Interesting. It's an interesting choice for the pain deck. Whether it wants to play this or not.
Which I have my own, and it's both water and earth, so this fits perfectly for it.
And side note, this is also not a bad Cecil to use. Like, monks could technically use this Cecil, because I know they like to use the 3-drop Cecil to do a point of self-damage, because a lot of people learned real quick, if you don't damage monks, it slows them down. Mm-hmm. So they had to include ways to get that point of damage for free, and so they used the 3-drop Cecil. Yep. This is another potential for that pool, but monks still need something to help pull it up to Opus 20, because they haven't really been competitive since 14 or 15.
And that was before the one limit of the main card.
Sophia.
Yeah.
Or Sophie. Yeah.
And then his second line of text is put Cecil into the break zone. That's just a cost. So you can do it as soon as he enters the field, which is not really... You can do it if you want on turn 2, but if you want to do it right away, that's up to you. But
yeah,
it's still a cost. There's no doll, so you can do it right away.
Mm-hmm.
Once he hits the break zone, search for a card named Cecil with the jaw Paladin and play onto the field.
Yep.
Oh boy!
So that gets you the 5-drop from 16, or, any other version of Cecil that is Job Paladin. Like, I don't know what they were thinking, but I'm sure they weren't thinking about you trading in your Earth 5-drop Cecil for the Wind 5-drop Cecil.
And then get something else on top of it.
You. Yeah. He's the tax man. And you can even, you can block with Cecil, and he'll probably kill whatever he blocks. And he might survive the first block. And then when he takes then you can have him block again, or if the first block would kill him, you can sacrifice him during the window after you declare he's blocking, but before damage goes through, to get you the Paladin Cecil, so that way you can keep blocking.
It's just
he's a brick wall.
His special, sure, why not? It's just like a little bit of a cherry on top, I guess.
Yeah.
Just pitch him, pay an earth, so you're paying 3. Choose a 4, deal 8k damage. It's just a little cherry on top. Most people will probably not use it unless they maybe are able to do it.
Unless they have another copy of this specific Cecil in their hand, and even then they might hold on to it just in case.
Well, obviously in this case, special just needs a card with that name in the card name.
Yeah. So any version of Cecil will do.
Yeah. So then we go on to the 4-cost Paladin Cecil. That's a heroic, AK. And he's a water.
Yep.
So when Cecil or a category 4 character, rather relevant, as we stated, enters your field, gain 1 crystal. For those that don't know, crystal is like Magic's energy mechanic.
Yep. Once you gain a crystal, it stays with you until the game ends, or you use it on an ability. So, when you play Cecil or a Category 4 character, a character from the same game as him, basically, you gain a crystal. That effect only triggers once a turn.
Which, honestly, if they didn't put that text, it'll be too broken.
Yeah, because you could probably speedrun playing Cecil over and over and over again. That's probably why the Rosa is the way she is.
Yep. And then Pay 1 crystal. Choose one category.
Oh god! Oh god!
Hmm?
We'll get to that with Rosa.
Yeah.
We'll get to that with Rosa, but I just realized something. Continue.
Choose one category forward you control. Until the end of the turn, it gains 1,000 power, and this forward cannot be chosen by opponent's abilities. That's pretty good, and the fact that you can just keep generating crystals with a lot of Crystal Engine, that's great. Luminous Blast is a special, so just pitch a card named Cecil. Choose one forward, lose a 5k until the end of turn. That's decent, actually. That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
And paying 2 just to do it, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a terrible ability. It has relevance. Making something lose 5,000 power is pretty good. If Category 4 gets something like Edgar, it could be devastating.
Yep.
Because it's another hey, I'm free.
Yep. So, moving on, actually, to the twins, essentially. So, Alphino and Alize.
So
you want to do Alphino here?
Yeah. Okay, so Alphino is a 3-drop water for 6,000 power. Scion of the Seventh Dawn, because that's his guild, that's his baby, he made it, he's living and dying by it now because he doesn't have much of a choice. When Alphino enters the field, your opponent selects a dull forward they control and put it into the break zone. At damage 3, Alphino becomes an 8k body. I don't know. It feels so empty to me compared to the 4-drop Alphino we got from 17. I'm not a big fan. Because the 4-drop Alphino from 17, you draw 2 cards, you discard a card, and when he enters the field at damage 5, he plays a 4-drop character onto the field for free from your breaks out. So I feel like that's just such a huge swing. You get to draw a card, you get to play a character potentially, and he's always 8k, and he's a 4-drop, but he's a 4-drop to guarantee that 8k. This one just feels so lackluster compared to that one. He looks amazing, but he's just so lackluster.
Why do I feel like that's a little jab for the Final Fantasy 14 class itself as Sage?
Sage?
It's kind of
that.
That's his class, actually, that in 14 is Sage.
Why be a Sage when you can just be a white mage and do it better?
Sage is... Apparently he chose... Won't go into details, but apparently Sage is a family job class within his family line. So I'm like, oh.
So somebody's supposed to be a Sage and he drew the short straw of the stick. Meanwhile, Alice is running around as a red mage just laughing at him the whole time.
Pretty much, but
Look at me, I have actually useful magic.
Yeah, I mean, Alphino could be a little bit more DPS because he has those funnel cannons that he can do. But he's basically a body that whatever. So let's go on to Alize, which she could also be the pre-release box topper, which is nice, honestly.
Yeah, she's the pre-release promo. There will be a full art of her with pre-release Dawn of Heroes written across it because they're starting to go away from numbering the opus. All of the players will refer to it as Opus 20, but they really would prefer if we started calling them by the taglines because they don't want us to scare off other people. Oh god, there's 20 sets. How am I supposed to collect everything? Calm down. You don't need everything. I had that conversation earlier today. Somebody was name old cards that are still relevant today. I can only think of 2. Shantoto and what was the other one they named? It was Shantoto and what was the other card? That's general.
Are we talking about Opus 1 or Opus 1 to 4 or whatever the heck?
Yuna and Shantoto.
Yeah, so Opus 1, yeah.
Yeah, they were like Opus 1 cards, and I was like, yeah, Yuna and Shantoto, but then there's Kusith, Tyro, Fat Chocobo, Chocobo from Opus 10, Estinian from Opus 6, King of Burmecia, Kingdom Hearts Cloud, which was the Opus 8 Cloud, Valfor from Opus 1, Kolka, Merlwyb, Princess Sarah, Odin from Opus 1 gets used a lot as burst bait. Summoner from Opus 1, the ice backup for 3 that I like. Summoner, the water summoner from Opus 4, I use all the time because it cancels any summon of cost 3 or less, which hits Amaterasu and Mist Dragon, the 2 biggest summons that you're going to see all the time. Yep. Also cancels Kusith, also cancels, like, it cancels so many summons. And it's just this 2-drop backup from Opus 4 that everybody sleeps on, except our meta, where we use them. Leviathan from Opus 1, Asura from Opus 1, Izana from Opus 3, Kukulin from Opus 9.
There's a lot that from older sets that is relevant. The only time it's not. Sorry.
The other side of the coin there is you only need like 20 to 40 cards from the older set. Mm-hmm. But when you're looking at card games, that's generally how it works. Like, you sit there and you hear about the Power 9, but what they forget to talk about is the other 300 cards that released alongside the Power 9. So that's 9 out of 300 cards that you're actually using from those sets. All the others, thrown to the wayside.
Yup. So, let's go with Alize. So, 4 cost lightning, 5k. Mm-hmm. The 5k is a little underwhelming, but the text makes up for it. Job Scion of the 7th Dawn.
Yep.
When Alize enters the field, choose 1 Job Scion 7th Dawn of cost 3 or less in your break zone and play onto the field. Doesn't say doll, so that's pretty relevant that this plays active. Cool. When Water Forward enters your field, choose 1 forward opponent controls, dull it. This effect will trigger once per turn.
So, she's meant to combo with Alphino. She alley-oops Alphino into play. Then she dulls somebody because Alphino entered play. Then Alphino will trigger to make them discard that person if they're the only dull person available. It feels like a lot of effort to get to Alice.
Yeah. Now, the pre-release kit's sleeves is basically Alphino's art as sleeves.
Yep.
Okay, so...
and then there's her as the promo. I think this LSA is almost as playable as the 17. The 17 LSA just feels a little better because you get back 1 forward from your discard pile and 1 Scion from your discard pile.
Yep. So you're almost guaranteed an A+, or you're plussing almost every time.
Now, granted, Alice can also put Grahatia onto the field, can put Y'shtola back onto the field. There's a number of Scions that you can throw onto the field with Alice that are relevant, which is why I think I like this Alice. I would use this Alice and 17 Alphino, honestly.
Yeah?
Because basically at that point, the job of the twins is to get your Scions back on the board. To let you claw back onto the board with.
Which is honestly great, because then it puts Scions back on the map for tournaments.
I think, like I said, I think if we could come up with a backline for Scions, we'd be there. Scions would be pretty legit because you can use Water Leviathan to cancel autos. You can run Yuna, you can run Louisoix to search for Alice or Alphino, whichever you feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have some options. Are they great options? Not yet. I'm hoping that we get some backup support that'll support a Category 14 deck. Because they have played chicken with this deck since, Opus 3 or 4?
Yeah.
Was it Opus 5 at least? Since Opus 5, they've been playing around with the idea of a Scion deck, because Opus 5 was the deck with Minfilia.
Yeah, and that deck actually, with a couple of commons and maybe a rare, was topping at regionals.
So, it could work. The problem is I think they're gun shy because of Avalanche and Soiree and Retainers. Well, maybe not Retainers, because Retainers uses like 12 cards from the starter deck, and then all the others come from like everywhere else.
But, well, to be fair, 14 and 7 are like the poster child of the... As much as people say 08 or 9 or blah, 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 sales-wise, 14 and 7 are like the poster children of Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
And honestly, and as much as either you love or hate it, the fact that it's second or third biggest selling Final Fantasy game and pure sales alone is 16. So that's creeping up into another poster child of the series.
So, yeah, 14, Final Fantasy, Brave Exvius, and 7 are sort of the categories that you expect will always get cards every set, whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. And it seems like every 2 or 3 sets, we have to look at the same 5 Scions over and over again, which makes me shudder, because it makes me think that we're going to get another Y'shtola, even though we just got one.
Yeah, well, it's weird because I assume that we'll get other characters from, obviously, the Endwalker expansions and blah, 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 blah. There's a couple of them I'm really excited for, because...
Like, there's the Reaper that you give the name to. She would be interesting.
Yeah.
She would be interesting as a character concept. Maybe even she could be a Scion, so we actually have, like, a new Scion. Because we got 2 new Scions. Why not make it 3? So that way we can maybe put... Well, no, because nothing's going to beat the 4-drop Alpha now. I'm sorry, that card's just way too good. There's a reason he's splashed in decks everywhere.
Yeah, well, the new Reaper, not going to say the name, but...
Yeah.
Let's just say there's a new Reaper that comes in later on.
Yeah.
We'll talk about speculations of her. I honestly think either Dark or Ice, but that's whatever.
Yep.
So moving on to Mist.
We missed.
2-cost water, rare. FFL, so legends or whatnot. Job,
yep.
Faith of Eureka. That's an interesting one. Warp 4. Warp 4, 0 cost. Oh boy.
So this can be done by anybody. Anybody can play Mist by warping her for free.
And then, when warp counters is removed from Mist, look at the top card of your deck. You may put it to the break zone. This effect will only trigger if Mist is removed from the game.
Yep.
And then, when Mist enters the field, draw a card.
So, here's the big thing about Mist, is that Mist kind of lets you prime for bursts, or set up draws for following turns. And it's been pointed out that she is another vehicle that enables Lena, as if she needed more support.
Right?
Opus 18 Lena, who looks for water cards in the discard pile, you could play Mist, and you could do that. And then when she finally hits the table, you also get to draw a card. So you can look at the top card, and you can decide if you want it or to pitch it and hope for better. But I'm not sure she's going to find place in Pop Goes Leviathan, as I like to call it. It's like a Jack-in-the-Box. Except instead of Pop Goes the Weasel, it's Pop Goes Leviathan.
Yeah.
And that's one Jack-in-the-Box you wish you never opened. She's an interesting card. I think she's kind of a win more condition. I'm willing to be wrong on this. I'm willing to be wrong on it. She can be helpful in helping you pitch dead draws. Like if you're already on 5 backups and you see that you're going to draw a backup, or there's a backup on top of your deck that's not a burst, you can just pitch it so you get it out of there. It's also useful in pitching characters to the discard pile, so that way you can recur them or get them back. I mean, there's a number of things you can do with that.
She's kind of like a bit of a utility tech, honestly.
She's utility tech. I'm not sure I would ever use more than 1 or 2 of her in a deck. I feel 3 would be overkill.
I think 2. Even 2. I think just 1.
Yeah, never more than 2. And that's like if you have found reliable ways to make use of her tech.
Yeah.
Like as a one of, maybe you can find room for her, but she's interesting. But I think she's for a deck that Water isn't ready to work with yet. Water seems to be really going gung-ho on utilizing its break zone to do things, which is cool. But it is also stepping on Lightning's recursion mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Water will spend the cards in its break zone to do effects. We got the promo unit from the anniversary set. We've got Lena. The best deck that utilized Mashri did it. Une lets you get back summons from the break, from the break zone, and she's Water Earth. Like, Water is starting to really step into its own as being almost like Wind in that it's having everything it wants. Because it's got some of the best search in the game in the form of Sildra. It's got some strong recursion for different elements in terms of Hilde and Alphino. It's got card draw up the wazoo like Earth, Wind, and it has a cancel like Wind. So we're getting to the point that I feel like Water and Wind are sort of the only 2 colors that can stand on their own as a deck. But I'm not sure if Mist is going to indicate a new direction it's going, or if Mist is just there in support of a mechanic that isn't really utilized yet.
Yeah, it might be down the line, like next couple of sets. Who knows? We'll see.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're going on to
this guy.
Yep, the precursor to Cloud, but also Cloud's. Okay, I'm just going to say this stuff because it's been like how long since his storyline's been. Yeah, that 7 storyline's been released. So if you say spoiler, you've had like 10 years or so to get this. So that's on you.
I mean, we just had 7's 25th anniversary earlier this year.
Mm-hmm. So it's
You've had 25 years in order to understand who the fuck Zack is.
Pretty
and what
much.
he stands for.
Yeah, sadly it's not the remaster of like the Buster Sword, but because they changed that Buster Sword look a little bit in the Crisis Core remaster.
Yep.
So Zack, Fire, 5 cost, 9k, Legendary, Job Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked that they used class 2 Zack, but that's whatever. We haven't got that yet. When Zack attacks, choose one 4-opponent controls, deal at 5k damage for each Job Soldier you control.
Mm-hmm.
That's an indication that we're now getting cards to build a Soldier deck. Finally.
You hope we're getting cards to build that Soldier.
Well, there's older Soldier cards, which are nice, but like older
As far
Cloud.
as I know, it's Zack, Cloud, Genesis, Angeal, and like
I think
Roche.
Yeah.
Because Roche is a soldier, and then we've got a generic soldier in Lightning. I think it is.
Yeah, but it has to be Job.
Yeah. So the problem is, okay, we have 5 soldiers, and of those 5, 2 are in Ice, 2 are in Lightning, and 1 is in Fire. Now, to be fair, Cloud kind of goes between Fire, Earth, and Lightning.
And Light.
And Light. So, there's a number of ways. I'm not sure if Light Cloud is Light Cloud a soldier? Actually,
Yep.
I have one right here. Yes, he's a soldado. At least the Opus 11 version is.
Opus 1 is.
Okay.
Opus 4 is.
So we've got 5 soldiers in the game, 2 of which are from old ass sets. One of which is still somewhat relevant to today's meta, Genesis. The other of which I barely remember that Angeal's the thing.
Yeah, I mean he's there.
And the reason I don't remember Angeal's the thing, the only reason I remember Angeal's the thing is because there's when Angeal finally, transforms into the monster form, and it says, "Oh, this also counts as card name Angeal, so you can't have both out at the same time." And it's like, okay.
Yeah. And then when Zach leaves the field, he may search for one job category 7 forward for Custless and play onto the field.
Yep.
Okay. So Zach leaves the field, get the cloud, search for category 7.
Now, I have pointed out that while Zach himself isn't that great when he's on the field, when he leaves the field. This is the first when this character leaves the field effect we've had since Guts Go in Opus 14.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if they remove him from game. Doesn't matter if they break him. It doesn't matter if they bounce him. It doesn't matter if they put him on the bottom of the deck. He has left the building. And the second he leaves the building, his replacement clocks in. And that replacement can be Barrett. That replacement can be Cloud. That replacement can be Tifa. That replacement can be Jesse, Wedge, Biggs.
Yup.
And
Heck,
that's why I think...
if you want to do lore, might as well add Aerith into the mix.
Yep, you can do Aerith. There's a 2-drop Earth Aerith that's actually relevant to Avalanche, and that's what I'm saying is I think that this Zac might help out Avalanche a little.
Mm-hmm. And then he has a special, which is basically pay 4, essentially. Pitch him, pay 1 fire, tap, so you're paying 4.
3.
Well, you gotta remember the tap part counts as an extra mana. Because you're tapping something and you're not able to use them.
It's... Okay. And then it's... Oh, okay. Deal 7k to all forwards the opponent controls. Again, like I was saying earlier with the Mont Blanc, if it can't kill a Soiree member by itself, it seems to get left behind in this meta. So you're probably never going to use Meteor Shots. You'd rather hang on to that Zac to play after your current Zac dies. Or goes away.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice if you're dealing with a bunch of weenies, as it's like...
Yeah.
I guess I can use this? Sure. Bleh.
I mean, yes, you're right. Hey, welcome on the draw.
Hey, how's it going?
You are right. It would stuff category 13. And it would stuff and it would stuff other such weenie decks like Warriors of Light. That's a new deck that I've been fooling around with. Mm-hmm. Fire Water Warriors of Light.
And then yeah, Zac's gonna be kind of funny actually. And if you use correct, it's gonna be good.
Yeah. He could either be like we could be seeing the beginnings of a soldier deck, but until we get a card that's like Riku or Sid Kramer for category 7, what are we doing?
Yep. Then we're going on now to Yuna, which is honestly one of my favorite cards that come out in this next set.
Mm-hmm.
So, 5 cost water, can be full art foil. Legendary Yuna, 8k. Job Summoner. When Yuna is chosen by your opponent's ability, you may discard one summon. When you do so, cancels effect. That's good. Like, just go, oh, you're targeting... No. Oh, you're targeting... No.
That stops auto abilities. That stops action abilities. That stops special abilities.
Yup.
Discard a summon? No.
It also works into our last text. Well, over the next one. When you cast a summon, draw 1 card. This effect will only trigger only once per turn.
Mm-hmm.
That's relevant because depending on which summon you cast, you're drawing 2 instead of just 1.
Yep. or even 3 or 4.
Yep.
Like, like if you play poo poo on an empty hand, you discard your 1 card. Oh no, I have no card to discard. But then I draw 2 cards, and then unit triggers to draw me a 3rd card.
Yep. Or heaven forbid you have a card that just goes, I cast Sildra for free.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, look, I get 2 cards, I draw another card.
Yep.
So, and then her special, which honestly can be pretty relevant depending on if you run 2 or 3 or whatnot.
Yep.
Holy. Pitch her, choose 1 4, deal 3,000 damage for each summon in your break zone. Now,
which is way relevant in water, which tends to run more summons.
Yeah. Or depending if you run a lightning deck that has summons shenanigan, then same thing.
Yeah.
So it's really good and can be really effective, but then again, they can miss Dragon or something in the break zone, but it doesn't really matter because it's icing on the cake. You have everything else that makes that cake awesome on its own. You just put extra icing on there just to go, oh, this is sweeter. So, I wish it was 9K personally, but you know what? The text makes up for the fact that it's not 9K.
The big problem is it's another name clash. Yuna has like 70 billion different versions of her.
Mm-hmm.
I made this argument earlier today. Why the hell does Category 10, the game that was all about summoners going on pilgrimage to put their Pokegod back to sleep for a few years so that way everybody could live in peace, seem to only have 2 summoners, Yunalesca and Yuna, in the card game?
Yet there's other ones that are in the physical game itself, too.
Oh, sorry. You occasionally get a Seymour. Occasionally.
Yeah.
Very briefly, you get a Seymour. But,
no, I mean, like, in an actual video game, there's more than one summoner that appears.
Yeah.
Sorry, we get Braska. Sorry, in the card game. We get Braska. He was a summoner.
Oh, we did get Braska, so that's a 4th.
Yeah.
What about Donna? Donna shows up several times during the pilgrimage to harass Yuna. For those that don't remember Donna, I think it's at Ixion's temple, she meets the gang and she goes, "Oh my, you have so many guardians. You must rely on quantity over quality. I'm happy that I can rely on my 1 guardian," and she pats Bartholomew's shoulder, who's her guardian. And Yuna's like, "Well, you trust 1 man with your life. I'm happy to say I can trust multiple people with my life."
Didn't she have like a kid that was also her guardian, quote unquote?
I don't know if Bartholomew's kid counted as a guardian for her, but Donna sits there and she acts like an asshole towards Yuna, like, for a good chunk of the game until Yuna finally gets far enough on the pilgrimage that Donna starts falling behind.
Yeah. And next one from...
And, like, that's a character that you could make another summoner out of. And you could put her in an element, and we can maybe finally get that summoner deck going.
That would be great. Yay.
You could even make her a backup.
That'll be good. Actually, that will be cool. There also is another male summoner there, too, in the game, but I was like,
Yeah, I mean, like, for a game that was all about summoners making a pilgrimage to put their Pokegod to sleep, there aren't a lot of options for summoners from that game. Because we've got Yunalesca, we've got Yuna, Braska, and occasionally Seymour. Seymour seems stuck in lightning. Yunalesca is ice or water. Braska is fire or water, because there's the backup that makes summoners cost 1 less in water. So you almost have this tribal thing going on, and you can go outside for a little more, but it's sort of the same issue I have with, like, Rydia and Terra, where you have a million different copies, and it's like, could you have put that on somebody not named that character so I could have options? And it's like, no, we're name clashing on purpose because we don't want these abilities together.
Yup. Actually, now that I think about it, there is a summon that we don't have. as in 2 games. Once. Yep, Anima. Anima is also in 14.
So Anima would be a great summon to also add to the game as a dark summon. Could you see that? Anima is a dark summon?
That woman of a summon, oh my god, is berserk. And yes, for war purposes, that Anima summon that you see Seymour take out, that's a woman.
That's his mom.
Yup.
That's his mom.
Now, in 14, it's someone completely different, and it's not a woman, but that's...
Yeah.
Yeah. But, original, that is Seymour's mother.
Yeah, he summons his mom to go beat the ever-living crap out of stuff.
Yup. Which, I find it funny that I... legit, in the game back in the day, I don't know how I did, but I did, broke Anima. And the original Final Fantasy X. No matter what I did, including to a boss, regular attack, or any other attack that Anima did overkill 99999 damage.
Yep.
No matter what I did, I was like, how did I manage this?
And you made it hell for you when you had to reach the end of the game.
No, it was easy. Just summon Anima, attack, win. Even Seymour.
No, I mean when you have to finally fight her.
Yeah, so I never got that because someone copied my data onto their memory card and tried to put their data on mine, which he hard erased over it. I was like, wow. So I never got that, thankfully. But my broken Anima wasn't on my data anymore. I'm like, oh crap. Okay. So that's silver lining and everything.
Silver lining, if you reach the end of the game after you finally beat the Aeon at the Heart of Sin, you do have to slowly fight all of your summons because you find out that your god, Yu Yevon, will absorb one of the summons and try and turn it into the next sin. And so the piece is how long it takes Yu Yevon to assimilate that summon to try and destroy the world. And so you have to kill all the summons one after another to keep it from hiding in the next summon until it's forced to fight you by itself. The problem is they remove all sense of urgency and danger from the encounters because once you beat Braska's final Aeon, because Braska was the one that brought about the last calm, so it's his Aeon that became the next sin. Once you beat Braska's final Aeon, you're on auto life. And if your character dies and gets back up, he will still have auto life. It's an infinite auto life. It takes away any sense of danger. So yeah.
So going on to the next card. 2 cost, Earth, FFL, fake. I mean, the card looks pretty fake to me, I don't know.
Have you seen that face? That's like generic anime protagonist number 12.
You sure it's not number 551?
How about number 20-080R?
But he's a 2-cost Earth 10k
body.
Yeah, with Brave. If one or less time counters are placed on Fake, Fake cannot attack or block. Okay? When receive a point of damage, place 1 counter on Fake. So that's a weird.
Yeah. So Fake has to see you take 2 points of damage before he can step in and start blocking or attacking. He has Brave, and he has 10,000 power, and he's dirt cheap, but he has this downside that just makes him so bad. And so I don't think this card will see much use outside of draft. I think he's a draft staple because you're going to take damage, and so being able to plop down that 2-drop early and then having this brick wall that can walk over and squish your opponents forwards is useful. I don't think in Constructed he has a place yet.
I mean, we're getting more FFL, so that might be good if we have enough FFL in title.
Yeah, I mean, Mist was one, Fake is a second. We are starting to see some Final Fantasy Legends support, but I don't know. I don't think this is it.
No. And then now we're going on to Prompto, which looks like we're going on to the additional episodes of 15.
So for those that don't know, when they launched 15, it didn't have the whole story. Like, they didn't have time to extend it out and include all the story and include all the cutscenes and stuff. So the cut content got embellished a little more and built up. So the problem is if you just play the core game of 15, you lose out on a bunch of story. You need to watch Kingsglaive, then you can start 15, and then about halfway through 15, you need to stop and do one of the side stories, and then you can go through 15 a little more, and then once you get to the train, you need to stop. Once you finish with the train, I should say, you need to stop, do another side story to see how that goes for a bit, and then after that's done, you can continue with the game to the end, and then you can play one final story that brings everything into crystal clear clarity.
Yep.
And then you have all of 15 story.
You're missing one.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, so first one should be Ignis. Or sorry, Gladio, Ignis, Prompto.
So Ignis' story is when you're is after you finish Italy.
Essentially, yeah. So
Prompto's story is after you're done with the train. Where does Gladio live?
It's around. So before you go to the town that has the factory. So a little bit before Gladio goes, "Hey, I gotta do something. I'll be right back." He's like, "Okay."
Welcome in, Red Lantern Superman. That is a very scary concept, and I hope never to meet it in a dark alley.
So yeah, Gladio does this thing. Then you meet up with Gladio again when you go into the factory town. That's his first one. Then you go to do the whole Leviathan thing.
Yep.
Ignis has his thing. And then that's the episode with Ignis, which explains how he went blind.
Yep. And then you go and you do the train. Prompto falls off the train, and then you do Prompto's story.
And then the last episode, which is Arden. I don't know if we'll get that version of Arden, but we'll see later as time goes on.
But basically, it's recommended you do the Arden story after you complete the main story, because the Arden story adds context to everything that goes on in that story. Yep. But it's best done after because it assumes you are familiar with what's going to happen.
Yep, and if you want to add like little extra tidbits, you just do the co-op thing, which adds little bit of extra lore, but yeah. Yeah. It adds a little bit of extra lore from Kingsglaive into whatever time. So, anyway, lore aside, go on to Prompto with the image from his episode. 2 costs backup retainer 15. When Prompto's put from field to the break zone, draw 1 card. Pay 1 win, tap him, so 2. Put Prompto into the break zone, choose 1 forward. During this turn, the next damage dealt to it is reduced by 5,000.
So yeah, he protects somebody by making them take 5,000 less, and then he draws you a card. So it's a net neutral on his ability. He is a retainer, so he has a relevant job. He is category 15. He's a backup. And my problem with Prompto, and the reason I don't like this Prompto, is he competes with the Retainer's deck Prompto, which is also a 2-drop, 5k body, that gets 3k in haste while Noctis is out, and when he attacks while Ignis and Gladiolus are out, draws 2 cards. And at damage 3, searches for Noctis, Gladiolus, or Ignis. So that Prompto is very hard to set aside to run this Prompto.
Mm-hmm.
That's my problem.
And you sure it's not higher there, Red Lantern?
Are you sure it's not like 9% higher? So while I appreciate what they did with the Prompto, he name clashes. He name clashes so hard, and that's the problem.
No.
You'll give me a 68?
Boo.
So is that 68 where I owe you one?
Is this one of those like old man yells at cloud moments?
Yeah.
Curse you.
Okay.
So going on to the next bunch. So, if you're a fan of Final Fantasy VI, these couple spoilers are for you.
Yep.
3-drop, 7k legendary lock, EX burst. It can be fuller too. EX burst, when lock enters the field, reveal top 4 cards of your deck. Add one category 6 character among them to your hand, and return the other cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. That's pretty good. That is really good.
4 card spread? Not bad.
You're plusing 1 essentially.
Yeah.
When 2 or more category 6 forwards you control former party and attack, lock deals your opponent 1 point of damage. 1 point of damage. If 4 or more category 6 forwards form a party, also break all the forwards the opponent controls.
I want to love this lock, I really do, but he clashes really hard with the central engine of the category 6 deck that's actually been functional right now.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so tough because I want this lock to be the lock, but you are giving... So, for those that don't know, the current category 6 deck runs the 5-drop lock from, I think, Opus 15. He becomes a 4-cost when you have 2 category 6 characters. When you cast a category 6 character, he flips the top card of your deck, and if it's category 6, you draw it. So the problem is, that's the central engine to the deck. Yeah, it's on a cast. When you cast a category 6 character, flip the top card of your deck. If it's category 6, add it to your hand. Otherwise, it goes back. So the deck runs category 6 backups and forwards, and nothing else. And it works because it uses General Leo to prevent your opponent from being able to use summons. So summons are taken right out of the game. Yeah, it is not once per turn. So you can sit there. I've literally... One of my friends plays the deck, and I literally watched him play somebody else, and he drew like 3 cards because he would play a character, flip the top card, it was category 6, he'd draw it. Then he'd play the next card, he'd flip a card, it was category 6, and he'd draw. And he would just keep casting and keep going because the cards he was drawing were either the cards he needed to play or the cards he could use to fuel what he needed to play. And so he'd get set up and have this solid board. So it clashes really hard with this lock. And I want to love this lock because he hits all the right notes. You can do a 2-person party multiple times to do free damage to your opponent. If you do a party of 4, you do a free point of damage to your opponent and you break all their forwards. It's a nice board wipe, but it clashes with your ability to draw cards. And maybe that unrestricts you from being able to use summons. Maybe that's what the deck needs. It is good. He does replace himself in hand. He's like a cantrip. I don't know if I can give up the free card draws.
That's very fair. So I guess going on to Celeste. Now this is can be also a fort. Honestly, these arts are really nice.
Yes, they really are.
2 cost 5k. Rare. Sorry, kink in my neck. If you control a card name lock, Celeste gains haste. Okay. Not bad. The card name lock you control gains haste. Really good, because then that way you just go bop bop. When Celeste enters your field, choose up to the same number of forwards opponent controls as category 6 characters you control. Dull them.
Yep.
So, it's like, oh, you have all this stuff? Yeah, we're just going to tap all those.
I'm not sure this one beats out the Opus 16 Celeste. That when your Category 6 characters form a party, you can either recur a Category 6 character, or I think it's like freeze 2 characters. I think it is. I'm not sure she beats that out. It is cool to have a board wide dole. I don't know. Again, this is just me, like, nitpicking. Like, the problem is, when you give a character a name, they're invariably going to be compared to other iterations of that name. And maybe she's good. Maybe because she gains haste while you have lock and gives lock haste, it allows you to form that first party, do a free point of damage, dole a couple of characters, and, you know, set up an opponent for a big fall or something. Maybe I'm wrong. I can be. Especially since Locke can dig for her because he flips 4. So you could easily find the Celeste and play it and to give him the haste.
Yeah, I guess they're trying to give Ice a little bit more destruction, I guess. Versus control on the field.
Celeste just falls into the control trap. The thing is, she reads more like a lightning character with that dole effect. Because Ice's thing is dole and freeze, or to freeze things. Like, freeze you find primarily in ice, dole you find primarily in lightning.
Yeah. Let's see. So let's just go on to Orin. Again, this art's really, really nice.
Okay, so if you haven't seen this Orin art, do yourself a favor and Google Orin 20-002H. This art is amazing, and I want it.
And I want to say this, based on, like, the look of it, it's almost like Orin there, like, for anyone that likes the fan base and whatnot. It's almost like Daddy Orin or something like that.
Yeah, this Orin is Big Daddy energy. He's going to make sure you get there, even if he has to drag you kicking and screaming across the finish line.
Pretty much. So he's a 5-cost fire, 9k heroic, job guardian. Forward, but from 5 to 10. If you control 2 or more forwards, the cost required to cast Orin is reduced by 2. So he's a 3-cost. That's not bad, considering fire just now kind of just goes spew all over the field with some other stuff. So it's not, that's good.
Fire likes to vomit onto the field very much.
At the end of each player's turn, which is very relevant, if Orin has received 4,000 damage or more, draw a card. That's really, really good. And then 0 cost. During this turn, the next damage dealt to you becomes 0. Deal Orin 8,000 damage instead. You only use this ability once per turn. I'm sorry, what?
Okay, so this is an important thing to note, like, in terms of rules. So, some abilities require you to take a damage and then save when you do so. If you use Orin to prevent that damage on the ability, it does not work. All you'll get is Orin's card draw. Like, for instance, Y'shtola. When Y'shtola enters play, you may take a point of damage. When you do so, Y'shtola gains haste and cannot be blocked this turn.
Actually, oh no. Oh, I saw something. You know that old combo with like an old Gabranth or like the White Mage with Zodiark?
Not familiar with that one.
So the combo, it's like a gimmick combo, but the thing is, if you cast Zodiark, okay, and
Yep.
in response, you either get White Mage off the field or you get Gabranth off the field. Next damage you receive becomes 0.
Mm-hmm.
Zodiark kills all your opponent's forwards and deals you damage equal to the amount of forwards you kill. But because that damage you received is from one source, you take 0 damage and wipe your opponent's board.
Yep.
So you could use him. Let's go. Okay. I take the next damage to 0. I draw a card essentially, and then you get to wipe the field.
Oh wait. Okay. So hold on. Sorry, I'm wrong. The when you take a point of damage when you do so, that's different. You can Orin that. So, like for instance, Y'shtola's enter play to gain haste and unblockable.
Yeah.
You can totally Orin that damage. She'll still gain haste and unblockable. But the auto ability that triggers when you take a point of damage will not trigger because 0 damage is not taking damage.
Yeah.
So she won't do the 4K to somebody. Just like with Cypher, when Cypher enters the field, you can take a point of damage to get back a Category 8 character. You'll still get the Category 8 character back, but you won't get the 2K in haste on somebody because you did not take a damage.
Yep. Well, it requires you to take that literal damage for you to get any effects.
Yeah. But you'll still get the Category 8 character back, or in Y'shtola's case, she'll still gain haste and unblockable, which will allow her to attack and do 4K to somebody. So you do have to be careful with what you Orin trigger. Because things that in a vacuum trigger when you take damage will not work. But conversely, Orin does at least limit the amount of incoming damage you can take from things like Behemoth K or Lightning or things like that.
Pretty much. Which is I actually might just build another bleed deck with him in mind and all that stuff. It's gonna be funny.
Yep.
Now we're going on to this Behemoth. Honestly, it looks like the Behemoth from World of Final Fantasy, but I digress. Behemoth, 2-cost monster. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Multi-unit, which is nice. When Behemoth enters the field, choose one forward, deal 7,000 damage. Okay. Since he's not a forward, he basically has haste.
Yep.
And then pay 2 lightning taps, so you're paying 3. Put him into the break zone. Choose 1 damaged forward. Break it.
Yep.
So you can kill something, and if it's not dead, yeah. So you damage something if it's 7k or less, and you happen to kill it, cool. If you don't, it's like, you have anything else to do add to sack? No. Break that. Anything else add to sack? No. Okay, it dies. Get rid of it.
Yep.
So that's not bad, honestly.
Nope. It's a solid card. It falls directly in line with the 4K to kill any card in the game. Like, that's totally a thing in the game. If you notice, they have priced killing a forward at 4. So this is directly in line because it's 2 CP to cast him, to damage the forward, and then another 2 CP to blow him up to kill that forward. So it's in line with destruction. The problem is they could kill it in response to the 7k trigger. Like, they could play something to blow it up, and then Behemoth would be unable to trigger because you can't put it on the stack unless you have a damaged forward to target. So
you have to do some shenanigans to really benefit off that.
Yeah. My problem is Lightning has traditionally needed to jump through hoops to do what the other colors do organically. Oh, you want to do 7k damage? Well, that forward better be doing the hokey pokey. Oh, it's not doing the hokey pokey? Well, then you can't damage it. Oh, you wanna sit there and do damage to it? Okay. Well, is it a small guy or is it a big guy? Oh, they had to pay a lot for that? Sorry, you can't touch that. You can't hurt it. So, sadly, that's Lightning's shtick. In order for Lightning to do anything any of the other colors do, it has to do the time warp.
That's a very good analogy.
And I get tired every time I see it, and I'm like, could we do something with like Rama where he does 1,000 damage for every card that you have in your removed from game zone?
Yeah.
That would be cool. And it would be totally in keeping because Lightning right now has the only cards that actually care about how many cards are removed from game. Could we have a cancel in Lightning that says cancel a summon or cancel an ability from a card that's been removed from the game?
Not a lot, and if there is, it's very few and far between.
But no, the card doesn't exist, but Lightning could. And then that gives Lightning all the incentive they need to continue their game plan, play things like X-Death to remove all your characters from the game, or, Splash Earth to remove your break zone from the game, so that way they can, or use Alba to remove cards from the game, so that way they can sit there and go, oh, I already removed a copy of Q-Sith from the game, so I'm going to cast, Remora, and Remora's going to cancel your ability or cancel your summon because there's a copy of it removed from the game. That would be cool, but they don't embrace Lightning playing around with the RFG zone right now. They're getting there. We are seeing it a little bit by bit.
But yeah, Man Black's really good for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going on to the Mega Sisters from 14.
Oh god.
This is where so for lore wise, this is where we're going into spoiler territory for those that haven't played Endwalker. You basically face these deities, essentially, these primals.
Yeah.
So, if there's any 14 cards now going forward that you don't know of characters from previous expansions, this is going to spoiler territory, so.
Yep.
So, forward, AK. When Mega Sisters 14... So, the Mega Sister from 14 cannot be chosen by opponent's summons.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
Yep.
Forwards your opponent control lose haste. Forwards your opponent controls cannot gain haste. Passively.
So this is everything Edward wishes he was and never could be.
Yep.
So for those that don't know, there is a copy of Edward from like way back in like Opus 3 or 4. That's a 2-drop 5k body that says all characters lose haste, characters cannot gain haste.
And it's very easy to kill at that point.
Yeah. This is everything Edward wishes he was, and then some.
Mm-hmm. And it has a tap ability, which you're paying 3 essentially. So tap, discard a summon, choose them 4, deal 8,000 damage.
This shuts down Category 13. This shuts down Soiree. This shuts down Rush decks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Magus Sisters literally put the brakes on your opponent. They tell your opponent, you may have thought that you could put pressure on me, but you gotta wait.
Yeah, but it's like we're playing at my speed now. Have fun. And it's Earth too, which is something that usually you would see only in Ice previously, but the fact that Earth's doing it is like, oh.
Yeah. You generally see negation effects in Earth and Fire. Because Fire has General Leo that says players can't play summons.
Yeah. I mean like the loose keyword abilities, I mean.
Yeah.
That's usually as far as I know, in Ice.
Okay.
Right,
So next on the docket is a character that we all know and loathe. His name is the Emperor. He is the most god-awful, ridiculous person in the world. He is canonically the only person that remembers the events of Dissidia. He is a 3-drop lightning forward for 7,000 power. And his job is, he's the Emperor. He doesn't need any other jobs. He rules by decree. The cost required for the character's opponent controls to use action abilities is increased by 2. That is a field effect. That is not like Cecil's Tax, where when your opponent targets one of my characters, you have to pay 2 extra. No, this is just, hey, cool. You want to use that action ability? Pay 2. When the Emperor is put from the field into the break zone, you may search for one card named the Emperor of cost 3 or less and play it onto the field dull. I remind you, this Emperor is a 3 cost. We have one of the most obnoxious iterations of the Emperor in the game.
Yep. Oh god, what are you going to do with set 21 and going on? Because Stranger Paradise has the Emperor in it.
Yep. So we have more Emperor shenanigans to deal with. So for those that don't know, the Emperor has the ability to make clones of himself, and he kind of ascended to become a god in Final Fantasy II. And he took over, basically, when the party finally kills him, his soul fractured into 2 pieces. His evil half and his good half. And the good half went on to take over heaven, and his evil half went on to take over hell, and he basically became a god. And the gods went down to the party and said, you caused this mess, go clean it up. And you have to go through heaven and hell to oust the Emperor, and it forces him to reconjoin. But from that point on, he's essentially a god. And he can make copies of himself, and whatever any of his copies knows, he knows.
Yep, and he effectively went, oh, by the way, for Dissidia, I was like, I remember everything. Why? Oh, I have a copy of myself in every universe of Final Fantasy. Every universe.
So like, even though you erased this specific copy's memory, because you didn't erase every copy's memory, one of them backed me up when I left the arenas of Dissidia, and so I remember all the events of Dissidia.
Yeah, Dissidia, and he has, in some form or another, a version of himself in every universe. So he knows like Cloud, he knows Terra, he knows Tidus, he knows Cecil, like every universe he knows about, and it's including Stranger Paradise. And then I wouldn't put it past him to know something in 16 at some point, or any other game, honestly.
Basically, he's basically the Mary Sue of the universe, and he's one of the big bad evil guys. I'm surprised 14 hasn't had to put him down like 7 times.
You know what? They've brought back other bosses. I'm surprised they didn't bring him back to fight.
So the whole point of the Emperor is he can find a copy of himself that costs 3 or less. So with that in mind, you have this Emperor that replaces himself. And then once you get tired of killing the Lightning Emperor, he can go get himself the Ice Emperor that costs 3 or less. And the Ice Emperor says, when I die, go find any copy of the Emperor that costs 5 or less. So you get that one killed off real quick. And then you have a choice of the 5-drop Emperor that is brave and gets the Palomino counters by removing copies of himself from the deck. Or you can drop the 4-drop Emperor that says your opponent loses all action abilities and special abilities.
Or an older card, the 5-cost Dark Emperor, that if he dies, grab another card named Emperor from the deck and just play on the field, essentially.
Oh, yeah, the one from, like, 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Basically, once this emperor is down, you pretty much can't get the emperor off their board.
So it's like, oh, you kill it, and it's back. Okay, kill it, and it's back. Okay, kill it, and it's back. Go and kill it, and it's back. It's like, oh my god.
If you are drafting this set, grab every copy of the emperor you can.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair thing to say. Because then you're causing your opponent to have to deal with his ass more often than not. So I was like, oh boy.
And he taxes action abilities, which become extra special important in a draft environment.
Yup, and he's a rare of all things.
Yep, he's uncommon. You'll get a place at every box. So, that's the Emperor. Everybody's most hated, heinous villain of all.
I want to say hated. There is one person that loves him.
Oh, God. I can't look at his profile picture without busting into laughter.
Which one?
If it's who Shikati's.
That, or there is one other one. I'm surprised because he's went on multiple times to say that that's his favorite card. A lot of times.
When?
No, in terms of the game, someone bigger standing.
Who?
Kayama-san.
Oh.
He's gone on record saying he really likes that card as one of his favorites. Actually, he had a deck that was kind of funny. I saw some of the gameplay on like a video years back, and he put the 5 cost out. This is like when Opus 4 or 5 was new on the block.
Okay.
And so he was playing someone like the video that was interviewing him. So he swung with the 5 cost. He kept swinging. He's like, I'm not going to block that. Okay. I killed myself and bring out the other one. So he purposely killed his own emperor just to go, ha! It's like, okay. So he got his opponent to 6 damage, and he's like, oh, you're not killing him? I killed myself. Other one's out. Have fun. Ugh. So.
Yeah. Yep.
Which, honestly, I am not surprised that the Emperors are doing this shenanigan now.
Yep. So the Emperor shenanigans continue with yet another iteration that continues the chain of I just summon myself over and over and over again. Good luck keeping me off the table.
Yup. So now we go on to...
Speaking of big bad evil villains.
Yup. The Fire, 7k, rare card, 5 cost, Arden. Chief Minister. So this is basically... Well, it's this city art. Go figure. When Arden enters the field, you may put 2 backups you control into the break zone. If you do so, turn over 1 card at a time from the top of your deck until 2 characters other than card name Arden are revealed and play them onto the field. Then shuffle the other cards and revealed and return to the bottom deck bottom of your deck. Okay, I was supposed to say in any order. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. No, it's shuffle them and return. Yeah.
Okay. 2 very important things to know about this card. So I had to do my due diligence because this became a thing, and I only found out about this rule as of Monday. Back in 2019, they wrote an article about what I am starting to call nested auto abilities. Nested auto abilities are abilities that say, when blah enters the field, you may do this. When/if you do so, do this. That's what I'm calling a nested auto ability. So when they enter the field, that whole auto ability gets dumped onto the stack. Okay? If it says if, you cannot respond after they've paid. Arden says if. So, if you are getting your Amaterasu hot and ready to go, I play Arden, you can't wait for me to put 2 backups into the break zone to negate him. You have to do it before I choose if I'm going to or not.
That's a new ruling. Oh, wow.
No, it's an old ruling. It's back from 2019.
Oh. Really? Wow.
If it says if. The thing is, a lot of abilities up until now have said when you do so. So
we haven't really had much of an instance to use the if part.
Yeah. When you do so is a separate auto ability, but it's a delayed auto ability like Kukulane. You know how they ruled that Kukulane puts a delayed auto ability that waits for the next main phase to kill him? Mm-hmm. And you can Amaterasu that auto ability? It's the same instance with this. If it says when you do so, when you do the payment, it triggers the other part of the auto ability.
Okay, so they can't really...
So they can react after the payment happens. Like Susano says, when Susano enters the field, you may put a backup you control into the break zone. When you do so, deal all cards not named Susano, Lord of the Revel, 9,000 damage. You can wait for them to put the backup in the break zone and cancel the 9k damage. If it had said, if you do so, you can't. So, Arden is going to be alright because you either get to use his ability or you don't, and your opponent has to decide whether they're going to let you pay or not.
Yeah.
That's big. That makes him a lot safer. So for all of you guys that were worried, it's a lot safer. But for the first few times that you play the card, you may need to explain to them the way this card is worded. If you let me pay, it goes off. You do not get a chance to respond to it. So you need to stop payment or not at all. The second ruling. Because it waits until 2 characters are revealed that aren't named Arden, if you flip 2 of the same character, they will both enter play, then immediately go to the break zone. It's the same ruling as Regis. You can choose 2 of the same character, they will both enter play, then they will both leave play, and then their enter play triggers will hit the stack.
Yeah. So going on from that, we'll go on to a new Tifa card. 2 cost, fire, 5k, rare. Has haste. When a category 7 character you control deals damage to a forward opponent controls, choose one forward against this forward cannot block until the end of turn. That's pretty good, actually.
I also want to point out something. Our little Tifa finally has 2 Avalanche operatives.
True, yeah. Before it was like either Fist Fighter or...
No, the only Avalanche operative Tifa was the Category 14 Heroic. That was the only one that had job Avalanche operative.
Until like set 14,
this set. Until this set.
And then her special, which is this pitch, pay 1 fire something else, so 4. Choose one 4, deal 8,000 power. It's or damage, sorry, but it's there.
It's
but
okay.
But most of her utilities on the top text, so it's like okay.
Yeah, an Avalanche character I control deals damage to a forward, then I block you from being able to block. It's a thing. She is an Avalanche operative. She doesn't search Cloud. She doesn't play a Category 7 character at damage 6. She's still 5k. I still don't feel it's as bad as I was originally saying. She does compete with that Tifa, but I can understand that if you can't get your hands on the multicolor Tifa, this is a good stand-in.
Yep. So the next ones, we have just translations for them, not stuff on the cards themselves. So,
yep.
Do you want to do some of these or?
Yeah, I can do some of these. Okay, so we're gonna start. Are you showing them the poster then?
I could. This might be a little bit of a pain to get them going, but
Okay. So the first one is Ject. Ject is a 5-cost fire forward with 9,000 power. When Ject's put from the field in the break zone, you may search for a fire forward of cost 7 or higher and play it onto the field. Immediately, this screams Braska's Final Aeon.
Yep.
Immediately screams Braska's Final Aeon. Let's go. Because it basically, when that Ject dies, you get the Final Aeon for free. Other noteworthy cards that are fire forwards of 7 cost or higher. Ranji, when he enters play, he deals like 8,000 damage to somebody, and he costs 1 less for each backup you control.
There's also that one Sin Eater that's big.
Has to be a fire forward. It costs 7.
7 or higher.
Yeah, 7 or higher. At least 7.
And that one Sin Eater is like a 10 cost.
Okay. Trying to think of any other huge fire characters that are in the game, but there really isn't that many.
See if I can.
I mean, I guess I could do this. Let's see what cost 7 plus fire forwards there are. So we have fire forward, 7, 8, 9, 10 forward search. Amarant. There's a 7-drop Amarant from Opus 8. There's the 8-drop Zandy.
Yeah.
Philia.
Yeah, I was thinking I was mentioning that the 10 cost one, right?
No, she's only an 8.
Oh, I thought she was 10. Okay, my bad. Yeah.
You're thinking of Bunvilder. Bunvilder's is a 10.
Okay.
You can do big old Cyan. When Cyan, a job Samurai forward or a card named Samurai forward enters your field, choose a forward opponent controls, deal it 9k damage. At damage 5, when he enters the field, choose one forward opponent controls and remove it from the game. You can do Parai. The cost required to play him on the field is reduced by 1 for each point of damage you've taken. When he enters the field, choose a forward the opponent controls, deal it 1,000 damage for each point of damage you've taken. Kind of sucks. You could do the new big Ramza, the Warp Ramza. When he enters play, you can choose a job Knight of 5 or less in your break zone and play it on the field. But that's more of a neck. Amaranth says when he enters play, select one of the 2 following, choose a forward, deal it 7k damage, or choose a monster of cost 3 or less, and break it. Zanti enters the field, choose 1 fire forward of cost 1, and up to 1 fire forward of cost 3 in your break zone, and play him onto the field. That's not bad. Damage 5, when he enters the field, choose 1 fire forward of cost 2, and play it onto the field. So, at damage 5, he gets a cost 1, 2, and 3 fire forward onto the field. Otherwise, it's a 1 and a 3. I think the big payoff's Braska's Final Aeon.
Yeah. Let's see what other ones was there. So there's that. There's Juggler. Or,
okay.
Yeah. Back Attack. I don't know why they have different translations for the name, but basically, Back Attack, so basically it's Magic's Flash.
Yep.
When Juggler enters the field, choose 1 forward, dull it. It's a 2 cost,
it's a 2-drop ice backup that doles something when it enters play. Back Attack is interesting, but I don't think it's enough to save this one, because we've had a couple of 2-drop backups that dole forwards, and they don't generally see play. Adding Back Attack to it could make it interesting, but because it's not a forward, it feels bad. Like, you don't get nearly enough out of it. And even then, the forward that enters play in Dole's Mustadio, the one that's really easy to make free, doesn't see a lot of play. So it's like, again, this feels like it would have been better in Lightning because it's a Dole effect. But cool, I guess.
Yeah. Then there's the Rosa, which you mentioned before. Sorry, you can
go ahead.
No, I was going to say the text, and then you can say a bit. Rosa, 1 cost 3k forward. You may pay the cost to cast your category 4 characters with any element of CP, so basically crystal points or mana. Whatever term you want to use, you can pay with any color.
Yep.
For your 4 characters. When a card named Cecil enters your field, draw 1 card. This ability only activates once per turn.
So you remember how I was like all excited with Dark Knight Cecil? It's because I realized this Rosa exists. This Rosa says you may pay the cost to cast Category 4 characters with any element of CP. Cecil's alternate cost is a cast, meaning you can pay 2 of any color if Rosa's down.
Oh my god, okay.
Yeah, right? And then when you play him, you get to draw a card after you take your point of damage. So it's like, okay, there it is. And that means that you can now use that Cecil in the deck with the Paladin Cecil. And it's totally cool.
That's awesome.
So that was a neat little trick that I just realized, is because Cecil's alternate cost of 1 earth, 1 water is a cast, Rosa changes even the alternate cost.
Yeah.
You can pay extra if you don't want to take the damage, or you can pitch a card and cast Cecil. And then draw a card. And take a damage. So that's what I realized. That's why I was like so excited. I was like, oh my god! Okay, I'll wait for Rosa because we need to spoil Rosa first.
So Goddess. When Goddess enters the field, place 1 whatever counter on it. Or whatever counter on all 4 opponent controls. Sure. When Goddess enters the field...
And at the end of opponent's turn, they think it's opponent's turn. It's very blurry.
Yeah.
Break all forwards the opponent controls with the Goddess counters on them. And at the end of your turn, remove all cards in your opponent's break zone from the game. So, we were talking about boss monsters earlier. Welcome to Wynn's boss monster.
By the way, this is a 7 cost wind, 9k body.
Yeah. And I believe it's Job Goddess.
I think so, yeah.
So, interesting things to note. 1, this is a Category 6 character. 2, it is a Mobius character. There are ways to cheat out Mobius characters. There's a 6-drop wool that plays any Mobius character from your hand. I had somebody use it to turn 2 drop a Neo X Death on me because Neo X Death is a Mobius character.
Oh god.
Yeah, that game sucked. I couldn't get anywhere because I had like 3 characters on the field and they started disappearing real fast.
Oof. Yeah. And then let's go on to Materia. So Materia, she is a backup. So I think it's a 1 cost backup. Yeah, light backup. You may reveal 2 or more characters. Wait, you may play. Sorry. So you may play 2 or more light characters on the field at the same time. So basically, like previous Materias and Cosmos. So
yeah.
When Materia enters the field, gain a crystal.
Yep.
Pay
1 in a crystal and dull.
Yeah, so basically pay 1 essentially. So
yeah.
Reveal whatever card gets it's hard to read apparently on that one.
X cards from the top of your deck.
Yeah, choose 1 forward among them and add it to your hand, and put the remaining cards to the bottom of the deck in any order. You can only use this ability once per turn. Then she has tap 2 dull, so pay 3 to gain crystal.
So she gains crystals. She can spend crystals to sift through the top few cards of your deck We don't know if it's 3, 4, or 5. Those tend to be the going numbers, is 3, 4, or 5. She stays on the table. She lets you play extra light characters. She seems to hit all of them. Now, interesting thing to note. Whenever you see Materia, you see Spiritus. Because Spiritus and Materia are opposed, just like Cosmos and Chaos are opposed. They always show up together. So that means Dark will get a variant of this. Because usually Spiritus is very similar to Materia. They'll do very similar things.
Albeit slightly different from another.
Yeah.
Materia is more benefit off your deck and whatnot. Spiritus is more board destruction versus benefiting from your deck.
Materia tends to speed up your game. Spiritus tends to slow down your opponent's game. But yeah, it's an interesting card. I do enjoy it. I think that it does have a place, but I'm not sure where yet.
In a Crystal Engine deck, like Brave Exodus or whatnot, it's pretty good. As a backup to generate crystals, sure, perfect.
I think she could have a place with she could maybe have a place in an Ice Earth Crystal control deck, but
true.
Because it would replace your need for the Knights and the Geomancers. If you can get her out, you have her.
Yep.
The problem is she has no way of getting rid of herself, but Ice Earth doesn't care as much because that deck plays Unalesca, so you pitch your extra materials to Unalesca and not care.
Yeah. So on to the next one, which is a new 4-cost Ice Rare AK Body Terra.
Yep.
This is an interesting one. When she enters the field, choose one, summon a 4-cost or less in your break zone, add it to your hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually on par with what she usually does, okay.
Mm-hmm.
When she forms a party and attacks with a FF6 forward and attacks, you may cast one summon 4-cost or less from your hand without paying the cost.
Yep.
This is another version of was it Opus 8 Minwoo? Or was it 6?
Yep.
Is he 8 or 6?
Maybe 7. I can look it up. I have it open now. Cause
I think he's 6, but either way, she's a weirdly different version
6.
of Minwoo, the forward.
Yep.
Where Minwoo just gets a possible summon from top of deck, she gets it from the discard. Not bad. But at least she lets you choose which summon from the discard that you want, instead of just relying on RNGesus to get the card.
Yep.
Her only gimmick is that she has to form a party with a 6 forward to get the extra effect like Minwoo.
Yeah, and that's what you're seeing right now is a lot of the Cat 6 support is party attacks. They're trying to build Category 6 to do party attacks because one of the core mechanics of 6 is the multi-party system. You make a couple of parties when you go into a couple of the dungeons, and you have to use those parties in order to continue through, especially the final dungeon of the game, where you make 3 parties, and they all have to climb up and stand on switches, and in order to let others get higher up on the mountain, in order to let the ones lower on the mountain climb up. That way you can finally reach Kefka. Which, by the way, Goddess is one of the statues you fight before you face off with Kefka.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know. It's Goddess, Demon, and I forget what the third one's called. I think it might be the deity or something like that. But yeah, she's one of the statues.
Then we're going on to Chadley.
Yup.
2-cost Lightning backup from Final Fantasy VII. Mm-hmm. When Chadley enters field, you may discard 1 card. If you do so, search for 1 Lightning summon and add to your hand. You're basically paying for it to get lightning summon.
Yep.
That's pretty good if you're running summon decks.
I think this slots in really nicely in your Earth Lightning Man in Black deck.
Yep. So tap him, discard 1 summon, which is nice. So you're paying 3. Put him into your break zone, choose 1 4 in your break zone, add to your hand.
So a little recursion as well, which is kind of a nod to his previous version. His previous version was a 4-drop, I believe.
Yep.
That put 2 counters on himself, and you could remove a research counter from him to and dole him to get a card back from your break zone.
As a lightning, is it character? I think it's character.
It's a lightning back.
It's a lightning character.
I have it. It's in a stack over here. Give me 1 second. Okay, he is a 4-drop, like I said. And Dole, remove 1 research counter, choose 1 forward, period, in your break zone.
Forward,
add it here. Yeah, not a character, just a forward. But no restriction on that forward. Can be anybody.
Yeah.
So he does help out with... He does still do the same thing. He does cost summons, which you can throw into the break zone, and then recur with Man in Black. I think he'll be really useful for that Earth Lightning deck, which, by the way, your Man in Black deck was running rampant through Texas. I'm not sure if you noticed that.
What?
I saw at least 2 or 3 iterations of it on the stream. It's getting play. Congratulations! You're the birth of a deck! They're very different than yours. They don't play around with Rama. But yeah, they're very different from they're still the core concept of, you know, the Illusory Warlock for Lady of Antiquity, and also, you know, Seymour and Man in Black and X-Death and...
Oh god, that's like my previous iterations.
Yep.
Oh boy.
So, Chadley does fit okay into this. Essentially, you don't have to search if you don't need to. You can drop him late game. The summons can be recurred with Man in Black, so he kind of fits in with that deck archetype. I think he'll be an interesting card for sure. Whether or not we're going to see a lot of him in the future remains to be seen. But I think he's an okay card. I think he's an okay card that kind of does the same thing Seymour does for the deck. It gets you more summons, which isn't a bad thing. The problem is my friend was playing a variant of it yesterday, and his big problem was if he couldn't find any of the forwards, he was in trouble, and he didn't have a lot of ways to get those forwards out. So I think he needed to put like Tyros in there so he could get to the forwards, because he had won the game. He had me locked down, but the problem was
he ran out of steam.
He had no forwards to kill me with.
Yeah.
And I kept flipping bursts that killed his forwards, so it was a painfully slow decline.
Yeah, so he was running out of steam.
Yeah.
Which is a problem with the deck, honestly, the deck concept. Is you can, if you get popping off, great.
It's great.
You have to make sure you keep that pressure with your things on board. If you don't, you know, if things get ways to get them back or get them out faster from deck, then you're kind of like, brick wall.
Exactly.
So.
Alright,
so going on to a new card. Second iteration of this character. 1 cost, water, rare, 3k. Leslie from 7. Job Lackey. The guy who reluctantly works for Don Corneo. He doesn't like him, but he works for him because he is forced to do so.
Yeah.
why. The game's been out for a while, so it's been out for a little while on PS4, so there's no really excuse to not know.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years.
Leslie's wife was chosen by Don Corneo. Within a day, his wife went missing, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So
he's trying to find her.
Yeah, and Leslie was not happy that, and his wife just went along with it for the sake of Leslie, and Leslie don't do it, and it's just like, oh boy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It was so Leslie's wife was forced against her will to, quite honestly, cuck Leslie, and she hated it. So
yeah.
So that's his little lore, which will probably feed into his card text here. When Leslie enters the field, you may discard one card. When you do so, choose one 4 opponent controls. Return to the owner's hand. If the card discarded is from category 7, also draw a card.
It's interesting. It's a 1-drop. It is a 1-drop that has a somewhat relevant effect. He can card cycle. That in and of itself can be useful. Mm-hmm. But so the decks that would want to run this would be decks that run like Tros, which tends to be mono water, and Leslie just doesn't help enough because you won't get that card drop. You're literally just pitching a card to bounce something, and yeah, that's cool and all, but you're literally paying 3 to bounce something when I could just cast Leviathan and not have to worry about one of the most prolific cards in the game just canceling it and killing my character.
Yep. But
like
I like
Amaterasu takes a dump hard on him.
Mm-hmm. I like the art though. Like the art from like the concept art for FF7 remake is really good.
Yeah.
Then going on to Jalinka, which I'm actually happy about this card.
There's many people that don't like this card for a certain reason. We'll get there.
3 cost, 7k. Forward. And she's a rare. Or is that heroic? I think she's a rare. If it was a rare, even better.
Rare.
Ooh, even better. When Jalinka enters the field, you may discard 1 card. When you do so, search for 1 card Yuri of cost 4 or less to play on field. Perfect!
Gets Light Yuri. Throws it on the field for free.
Or the Wind Yuri.
Light Yuri can cause some problems for your opponent. Mm-hmm. But maybe they won't use that Yuri, because if you use that Yuri, you're pretty much asking your opponent to drop Chaos on you, because it'll be free.
Yeah. But the thing is that the Wind Yuri has protection from abilities. There's 4 more Crystal Chronicle characters, or supports. Either way, he has, and he counts himself with that. So then you can tap him if you have a Crystal Chronicles themed deck or title, or tap him, reveal a top card if it's a Crystal Chronicles card, adds your hand. Cool.
If it's not, it goes into the break zone.
Yeah.
So the Light Yuri has all elements, dole a total of 3 active backups of the same element, or 2 active backups of the same element in Yuri. Select one of the 4 following effects. Draw a card. Choose a forward, deal it 4k damage. Choose a forward, dole freeze. Choose a forward, it loses all abilities until end of turn.
Yep. And then this one, if you when Chilling forms a party and attacks, the damage dealt to the forwards formed in the party becomes 0.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And here's the thing. Because I have the deck, it's going to be funky. Here's why. Chilinka, the Light Yuri.
Yep.
Form a party with 3 of them. Pop, no damage to it. Swing in big. Oh, by the way, tap 3. No.
Yep. Tap 3, dole freeze a potential blocker, or tap 3, blank a character.
Yep. So that gives more destruction power to the tile deck and actually to the theme of the cards itself, which is great.
Yep.
Because Crystal Chronicles, as much as it is, you can just flood the board. Doesn't have a lot of destruction.
Yep.
That's its only downfall, is that it doesn't have destruction capabilities compared to the other tile decks or even theme cards for the tribal. And that's honestly his only downfall. Other than that, if they have more destruction, it'll be a oof. Then we're going on to a new card, which apparently people are saying...
That's the last preview.
Yep. One cost...
We finally got it! The bottom of the pile.
The one cost flashback Tifa, 9K Legendary. I don't know why she's Job Avalanche when that wasn't her job back then.
I have a feeling the number one argument was that, hey, Avalanche needs some bones because it doesn't have anything, and you've only given them one Tifa that's an Avalanche operative, and they aren't incentivized to use any other Tifas, except maybe the one that came from the set that came out right as the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, we need to print some more Avalanche operatives, so fine, here you go.
Yeah. Lore-wise, this doesn't make sense unless Rebirth tends to forego the whole have Tifa not as a Job Avalanche operative, but she is now. Maybe it's a precursor to that. I don't know.
Let's get to the card.
Yeah. The art, though, is nice. It's basically concept art of her in the flashback with, like, the cowboy outfit. Or cowgirl in this case, but whatever. So, has Brave. Tifa cannot be dulled by opponent summons her abilities, which is more of a monk staple, though.
She is fantastic for that. The problem is she doesn't fit in the monk archetype either, because all of her other jobs have been martial artist.
Yeah, so I was like, even though she has monk-like abilities, go figure.
She has chakra, but she doesn't... We grant you the title of martial artist, but you are not a monk. This is outrageous! It's unfair!
And then Tifa enters the field, discard 2 cards. So you're effectively paying 5 for her.
Unless she's the last card you play. If you play her as the last card in your hand, you can't discard 2 cards, but it doesn't have a downside if you don't.
Yeah, true enough. It's not like, oh, she just dies. No, you just can't discard. Then pay 2, anything, and no doll, which is great. Tifa can attack once more this turn. You only use his ability if you pay CP produced by backups to use his ability.
Yep.
That's not hard.
So, everybody was like, oh, this card... Like, I had somebody go, why is this card legendary? It's at best a rare. And I was like, 1 drop, 9k body, ignores the dual freeze meta. And he's like, you can still freeze her. What does freeze mean if they're never dull?
Yep. It's like, oh, she dull. No, she just has brave. She can't do that.
Yeah. She's brave, so she won't dull herself. And she can't be dull by your summons or abilities. Doesn't matter if they target her or not. She ignores the dull effects. So you're never going to get her dull. So you freeze means nothing unless I do something stupid that dulls her.
There's 2 ways to do it. 1, it's a field effect. It's not... Actually, would that work? There are cards that say, your opponent's forwards enter the field dull. I don't know if that will affect her specifically or not.
I don't believe she can be affected because there will never be a point in which that effect is not active on the card. So it would prevent Maquis and it would prevent...
I think Cloud of Darkness, like the older one.
Yeah, I think it is Cloud of Darkness. It's either Cloud of Darkness or it's like an Edea.
Yeah. But
it's one of the villains from like Opus 2 or 3.
Yeah. I just thought like, okay, this is maybe a field effect like that is something because it's The problem is well no, they enter play dull.
so her field effect wouldn't be on yet because she's entering play dull, which means then you can freeze her. But even then, that's like you're playing a card that generally it slows your opponent down a little, sure, but they're usually attached to forwards, and Earth loves to pair up with lightning, fire, and wind.
Yeah.
The three worst colors to hope to get those sorts of effects off on.
Yeah, so even if it's just like,
you can blank her. You can blank her and then do whatever you want to her, but that's not really an argument. That anything can get blanked.
It's but she's still like really good. You're paying 5 or 1 depending of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To get her out, and then it's pay 2. It's like slap. Yep. Actually, technically, that is part of lore. She has even though she can punch people to all high hell, she has a slap thing with a villain in the game. Go figure.
Yeah,
which is kind of like the meme online now. So, oh well.
So, I was thinking we did start getting wind avalanche operatives. So it could mean that Avalanche could shift over to a Wind Earth.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, she has a little more value because what is one of Wind's... what's part of Wind's color pie? Backup activation.
Yep, and there's a couple Wind backups that tap for Earth, too.
And also you'd get access to Yuffie, which could ready all your characters.
Yep.
Like, it feels like we've got some room to play around with that style of deck. I think unfortunately they gave us the Fire Tifa in order to give Earth Fire a bone, but it's not nearly enough. That Avalanche deck needs something more to go off of, otherwise it won't have anything, and that's the issue that we're looking at right now. Is
I saw something
like, yep,
the old Zangief backup.
Oh yeah.
Passively gives a Tifa 4 cost or less haste.
Yep, and searches for Tifa when it's played.
Is it add to hand, or is it search and if it's 4 cost or less, play it and gives her haste?
It's Zangan, I want to say.
Yeah, it's the one from the star deck.
Yep, Zangan. When Zangan enters the field, you may search for one card named Tifa and add it to your hand. The card named Tifa, if cost 4 or less, you control gains haste. And so it's a birth.
Yeah, so basically it's not playing on the field, but still, you just go, it's there, pay, get it out. She has haste and brave.
Yep, and she can attack once at 9k, and there's very few bursts that'll be able to take her out turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can pitch for Zangan, find Tifa, pitch for Tifa, play Tifa, do a point of damage. I get it. It's an interesting option.
Or 2 damage.
Yeah, a damage or 2. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. It's an interesting concept. She is an Avalanche operative, so she does slot into the deck. Maybe you could run 2 and 2 or 1 and 2, like one of the multicolor, 2 of this one. I think will this bring back Avalanche into the meta? I can't say. I really can't say.
If it doesn't bring him back into like tier 0 meta, honestly, I could see it coming in like low tier 1.
Yeah, I could see them. They basically, Avalanche's problem is that it still requires the backup game a little bit in some cases. You can go without backups, which, yeah, Category 13 putting pressure on people without needing backups is like really putting the pinch on the slower decks. So it does allow Avalanche the ability to sit there and do the same thing, just to blitzkrieg out and go. You can do that. That's not an issue.
Yeah.
Maybe we will see a return of Avalanche with this. I mean, maybe this is the shot in the arm it needs. And then you can run Aerith to recover a couple. You can run Light Aerith.
Oh, yeah.
And then that gets you back 2 cards from your break zone, which, makes Tifa break even. Like, I don't know. There's a number of things you can do. You've got the Tifa, you've got the Zac. Zac can even pull that 4-drop Light Aerith to get you 2 free cards from your break zone.
Yeah.
We've got some options now, and I think Avalanche might make a return. As much as some of you may groan, I'm actually kind of excited to see Avalanche return back onto the scene.
That'll be fun, but then people will go, 7 again. There's a lot.
It's been like 3 opuses since Avalanche was a thing.
But some of the people I also talked to, they're like, okay, 7's like one of the most supported like games in the TCG. What the hell?
It's 7, FFBE, and 14.
Yeah. So I guess that's all the spoilers, minus once we get into like Opus 21, or sorry, whatever.
Yeah.
So why don't we? So now that 16's out.
Yep.
What sort of cards would you like to see? Type of effects.
Okay, so unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to play a lot of 16. I've seen a little bit of the play. Obviously, you can't do summons from 16 in the same vein that you could in other games.
You could actually, you could do it like 14, where the summons are the forwards.
Yeah. That's basically how it'd have to play out, is because you kind of... Yeah. That's how it would have to play out. So there isn't many summons that are happening in 16 in the traditional sense. Mm-hmm. Unless they want to sit there and make like the different moves that the icons give you access to into summons, in which case that kind of isn't summony enough in my case. In my opinion, it's the same as the magic system.
Yeah,
so the problem is 16 doesn't give you much in the way of summons. You'll get quite far for characters and backups, but summons not so much.
It might work, like, you know how NGL blah 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 works, like if there's NGL pennants, or like sometimes there's cards that go, if this character dies, bring out a character of this name, but it's technically the same character but a slightly different name, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That might work with some of the characters, right?
There could be a special where the icon version of the character counts as card name, the base character.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't much of a spoiler. Like, this is like in the first hour of the game. We know that Clive is Famfreet. And so, or Ifrit, sorry.
Yeah.
I said Famfreet, but it's Ifrit. So we know that Clive and Ifrit are basically the same characters. So like you could put on Ifrit, counts as card name Clive in all instances.
Yeah.
Like they do with Neo X Death and X Death and all that.
Yeah.
Okay, so they count as the base version of the character in all instances, and then like they'll have like a special where you sacrifice the human version of it and then summon the icon version of them onto the field.
Yeah, or maybe similar to like just the regular Braska forward, where you get to pitch like card name whatever for their special. Yeah, like for Clive.
You see, that's so close to what I wish they would do with 13. I wish with 13 they'd do a cycle of the characters that could discard the summon that they're bound to for their specials as well as copies of them.
Yeah. Oh, I just thought of something. Because of the dominance of every character, maybe, well, minus Garuda, because maybe Garuda. Maybe like for Clive for Ifrit, and then, well, it's not really much of a spoiler because it's on the literal trailer, but Joshua for Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they can revolve around an engine just like for Clive for Ifrit. He'll be basically a boss monster for an Ifrit build, or Joshua for a Phoenix build, or something like that.
Yeah. Where you could discard a card named Phoenix to pay your S cost on it. Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, and then it's just a whole bunch of shenanigans like that. There's a couple other stuff here and there, but honestly, it would be actually really fun concept to figure out all that stuff. But actually, now that I think about it, I wouldn't be surprised if A is either a box with that theme or a starter deck for that theme.
Yeah, I think that's definitely starter deck territory, because you're going to need a lot of dedicated space for it. And that's literally what the starter decks do. So I could see like Clive versus I forget who's the guy that's named who's Titan.
Kolka.
So Clive versus Kolka.
Or it's weird. Like Clive goes against almost every other thing.
Yeah, well, I think that one fits because for the first half of the game, that's the major conflict. Because everything builds up to that fight, right?
Kinda. It goes.
You kind of get on Kolka's radar, and then
after you take out the other ones, yeah, you get on his radar, and it's like, oh. Ugh.
You get on his radar, and then things start escalating, and things start happening, and Kolka gets more and more obsessed with Clive, and then it hits this climax of you two going at it like rabid dogs, and then you move on from there. And I get it. I think that's why that would work as a 2-player starter set.
Yeah.
Because you can do like I think it's Benedicta.
Yeah,
Benedicta and Joshua as support characters for the two sides and whatnot, and it would work out.
Yeah, Benedicta's Garuda.
Yeah, and
Joshua's Phoenix.
Right, but that's kind of the point I'm making is it kind of helps flesh out the decks because you have the two lines being drawn when you put it between Clive and Kolka.
Yeah. The other thing that might be interesting is because of Clive's ability, as seen on the trailer, he somehow gets the abilities of the other dominants, so summons or icons.
Yeah.
Maybe something to do with those in his text.
Like, maybe there's a version of Clive that your special ability is you steal icon's special ability.
Kind of like Go-Go in a way.
Kind of like Go-Go, but only for icons.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that might be good. Like, or just a single starter deck. That'll be good. Like, just like the standard,
even 50... just a category 16 custom deck.
Yeah, where they give 50 cards for the deck, but also another 50 like they are doing now. So 100 cards just to fill around with, right?
Yeah, 100 cards. You can do a lot with that. Basically, since Garuda's typically wind themed anyways, you could put that in the bonus 50, and you can just focus on Clive and his allies as like either a fire earth or a fire lightning or however you want to go about that. Mm-hmm. And then if you went with like fire earth, then you could have Kolka and Benedicta and all their stuff in the bonus 50 cards if you wanted.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other characters too, but obviously I'm not gonna, because I'm a little bit past halfway, so I'm not gonna really reveal all that stuff. So
right, but that's the idea going into it is
try to involve the icons in some sort of like summon theme specific to those characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
like taking, or even just taking the base summoners and having them become their icons, or having like some special link with their icons that, you know, empowers them or builds them up, or, you know, allows them to shift into something like that. Even if it's something as simple as put this character in the blank zone, play icon, a job icon named, you know, Ifrit onto the table because I sacked Clive, you know, that sort of thing.
yeah. Those are actually be really kind of neat to put in. I just don't know when they'll add it, but then again, they added Shadowbringers relatively quickly when Shadowbringer was released.
So from what I understand with the cycle, we're looking at 3 set, like this set was designed 3 sets ago.
Yeah.
So back at 17, the snapshot of the meta, they were designing cards for.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why some decks seem to keep coming back into prominence. That's probably why we're seeing a lot of Avalanche stuff pop up right now, because in 17, Avalanche was still a thing.
Yeah.
It didn't drop off until 18 when Avalanche just... Yes, it got Hulk. Yes, it got Neo. Yes, it got Billy Bob. Yes, it got Saiji. Doesn't help. I'm sorry, it really doesn't help.
Yep. So apart from that, I think that's pretty well all we can kind of cover until the next spoilers.
Yep. So I think we're good until, you know, the end of spoiler season in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So I'll have to say, well, thank you, Dissinger, for coming on for that. I was
No problem.
I was kind of half dead by the near end of it.
Yeah, I
like,
totally get it. I've been chugging caffeine to get through it and to keep my throat wet.
Yep. So, you know, thank you for that. And then for those that came by and hung out and all that stuff, thank you for coming out. And hopefully see you in the next one. So with that, have a good one, everyone.
You too.